Hello everyone! Welcome to a DSP video. Hope you enjoyed the last one. This one I decided to do on his reaction to The Last Guardian is delayed. If you're wondering why I'm not doing any art, is because after this video, after I'm done recording it, I'm gonna be doing a Dead Rising stream. This is gonna be my first time playing Dead Rising. Hope you're hyped. But enough of that. Let's watch this.
What's going on, everyone? Darkside Phil here with another surprise vlog that honestly I wasn't planning on making today. It just seems that recently there's been a lot of stuff going on in the realm of gaming news that I felt like I should.
A lot is going on, and he chose to pick The Last Guardian is delayed. That is a very slow news cycle, and before someone says, but it's annoying that it got delayed, I want you, if you are really disappointed that it got delayed, tell me how long you waited for a release date. Just tell me how long you waited for a release date from when the game was announced to the part where they announced the release date. Tell me how long you waited for that, and compare that to how long you're gonna wait for the game to come out now. Just tell me.
Address and talk a little bit about, so here we go yet again. For those of you who aren't aware, because this is fresh news, just in the past 24 hours this has happened, Sony Computer Entertainment's CEO came out on PlayStation Blog and made a blog post formally announcing that The Last Guardian has again been delayed.
Again? When was it delayed? When did it get delayed? Because when they announced the game, they never said a release date. They never said anything about when it's releasing. They've just been quiet about it. They just announced it back in 2007? I don't remember when it was first announced, but they announced it back then. And then after that, they never talked about it. They kept talking about, like, small things here and there, but they never gave a release date to this game. So this is the first delay that The Last Guardian has had. Now, this is, of course, assuming that maybe within the company there was a release date, but they never really went public with it. Like, maybe the CEOs knew, like, okay, we're going to target to get this game out by this year, and then it never made it or something. But they never formally announced a release date. They announced a release date last year, and this year they released they announced the window last year. I think they were like, coming out in 2016 or something. And then this year they're like, okay, it's coming out in October or something. And now it got delayed. So this is the first time it got delayed, not the second or whatever. But of course, Phil, the hardcore gaming expert, knows this.
Now, first of all, let's get the information out there. The delay is from original release date, which was going to be the final week of October. It was supposed to be October, I think, 25th. So it was actually a day when there was going to be a lot of other stuff going on. The previous Friday, there was going to be Battlefield 1. On that very same day, there was going to be Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Later in the week, Titanfall 2. In Japan, there were other releases that were kind of going to conflict with the game as well, such as Persona 5 and other stuff that were coming out around that time frame. So
isn't Persona 5 coming out next year, though? I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of the Western release, maybe, I don't know.
Honestly, it wasn't necessarily a great release date for The Last Guardian to begin with. The game has now been delayed till the very first week of December 6th, which is, a hot release day, because in the United States, at least, we've got South Park, The Fractured But Whole, we've got Dead Rising 4, also there's the,
But why would Dead Rising 4 affect the sales of The Last Guardian? Both of them are exclusives to their own title. So, how does that matter? I mean, the only people that it matters to, I guess, would be people who own both consoles. But the way I see it is, both games have are not even that similar, but depending on the person who's buying it, they're probably gonna go with the series that's closer to their hearts. And I would be more willing to bet that Last Guardian would trump Dead Rising 4, because The Last Guardian came out. It's coming out from the company who did Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. So those have a more garnered fan base, and it's mean, it's kind of niche. I mean, those two games weren't really sales dynamos. They weren't like, oh, Shadow of the Colossus, bam, breaks records. But you know, they probably are just releasing this game for those fans and maybe newcomers. Probably. I mean, I kind of played Shadow of the Colossus, but I haven't really formed a relationship with it. Dead Rising started on the 360. So like the Sony fans don't really care about Dead Rising 4 because guess what? They don't have an Xbox One, and those who have both, it really depends at that point. But most of the time, people will probably buy both because the other thing that Phil needs to remember is that the people who pre-ordered the game are the people who are getting who really want the game. So people who pre-ordered it have most likely paid off the game already at this point. So they already own the game. Technically, they already own it. They already bought it. So the only people that this affects are people who weren't interested to begin with.
A delayed release of Final Fantasy 15, which is now only going to come out the week.
I mean, like, look, I use as an example. This today, as I'm filming this, is Tuesday, September 13th. Dead Rising and Bioshock Collection both come out. Now, I picked Dead Rising 1 because I could buy that separately as a physical release for $20. I was like, okay, that's fine. All I want is Dead Rising 1 and Off the Record. Those are the only two Dead Rising games, and I really kind of hope at this point that Off the Record has a disc release, which I am willing to bet, but it's probably not announced yet. Whatever. But they said that each game of those games would be $20. So I was like, okay, I'll buy Dead Rising 1. But I really wanted the Bioshock collection, but that's $60, and it came out the same day. But it's not like, well, I gotta buy one. The other one, fuck that. It's like I'm gonna get Bioshock down later on. Like that's a purchase I'm gonna be doing later. But whatever. I mean, I guess as a company, when they want company-wise, financially, I guess that kind of sucks. But they're probably not gonna care. But I mean, a remaster is completely different from a whole new game to be on as well. So.
Week before The Last Guardian, and I believe also in Japan there's one or two other releases around that time frame as well. So we're talking about a little bit over a month's delay. Is this a huge, oh my god, issue? No, a month delay is a month delay. It's not like, oh god, it's back to being indefinitely on the table again. But when you're talking in regards to The Last Guardian, that's when you guys kind of say, uh-oh, what's going on here?
Like I says, it's not a big deal, but he made a big drama video that's 17 minutes long about the delay. Okay.
Is this a bad sign? Allow me to
very deductive deductive side Phil over here. He deduced that, oh, they delayed the game, that means something bad happened or something's wrong. Slow clap. You figured it out, Phil. They delayed the game because probably they have bugs. Now, everyone's probably saying, like, they had 10 years to make the game, and the game started out as a PlayStation 3 game. The PlayStation 3 has a whole different architecture than the PlayStation 4. For instance, the PlayStation 3 has the cell processor. I know, you keep hearing the cell processor, whatever, but it has that. The PlayStation 4 doesn't have it, so they had to rebuild the engine, probably, I'd assume the entire engine on the PlayStation 4's architecture. So that might have brought up more bugs that they did not account for. Probably they announced the October release date because they were probably pretty much sure that it was gonna work, but as they probably developed it on and on, problems probably started to arise. Now, I'm willing to bet that this game will get a day one patch. Now it could get a day one patch. I'm not gonna say that's off the table now, but I'm just willing to bet at this point, off the information that I have that I didn't get, is that they probably delayed it so that they wouldn't need to do a patch for the game. They probably wanted to make sure that when you get the game, you can pop it in and play it, because a lot of games have patches. Look at No Man's Sky. I mean, No Man's Sky got delayed, but they have a launch patch, so people who leaked the game don't get it or whatever. But I don't know. I just feel that like Final Fantasy 15, they probably did this so they wouldn't have to patch the game. Now, will it get patched? Now that's a whole what if. I mean, it could. I don't know. I'm just assuming that's why they delayed it because Team Ico, I think is the developer's name. They have not done anything that is kind of sleazy or shoddy. But again, they've never made a PlayStation 3 game or a game in this patch era either, so who knows, right?
Explain for those of you who don't know, alright? The Last Guardian is a game from the creators of Ico and Shadows of the Colossus. Two great games in their own rights. I actually did a playthrough of the HD upgrade of Shadows of the Colossus a few years ago on DSP Gaming if you want to check it out. I actually really loved the game. It's more artistic than anything else, but it has unique gameplay elements. I mean, talk about a game that totally breaks the mold and does something a lot differently than other games of the time, right? I heard a lot of great things about Ico as well, that it was kind of the same kind of deal. And so when, The Last Guardian was announced almost 10 years ago, I think we were all excited. They did this big presentation at E3 showing this small child and this big griffin almost like creature who normally would be afraid of it. It's like a monster.
I like how he keeps emphasizing 10 years or almost 10 years, whatever. But the thing is that a lot of things can happen in development. A lot of things. Like, people might have left the company, people might have, you never know. Like, even the guy who's making The Last Guardian, that guy is retiring. He's leaving, or he's either retiring or he's leaving the company. I don't remember which one it is. But he said that this is going to be the last project he's working on. So after that, then he's gone. So he's been working on this game for 10 years. But, I don't know if he's still working on the game. That's the other thing. Like, I remember reading an article, like, in 2008 or 9 or somewhere that he said that, yeah, he's retired. His contract with Sony is like running out and he doesn't want to renew it, but he wants to stick around for this game. That's
monster in a game, right? But in this case, it does like cooperative stuff with the child, and the child goes through this 3D world of platforming, and there might be combat and stuff too, depending on what happens.
I have a feeling that the co-op with the bird thing isn't going to be as spectacular as people are probably thinking it's going to be. But that's just my theory.
With this creature. And so it seems like a very interesting premise. Now, almost 10 years ago, this game was shown off, and they were basically pushing this game as a reason to buy the PlayStation 3. Like, they were like, this is the capability of what the PlayStation 3 could do with its graphical.
They never. No. Anyone who saw that trailer was like, oh, fuck the graphics, because the graphics wasn't that amazing. They didn't hype this game as, look at what the PS3 can do. They were just like, oh, look, a game. You like games? Here's a video game. Like that. That's all they did with it. It wasn't like, guys, now we have a big announcement that's going to blow your minds. The Last Guard. No, it was like, oh yeah, here's the people who made Team Ico and all that shit. It's not like Killzone where they hyped Killzone 2 on graphics alone.
Engines, look at how amazing this game is at this time. You're going to want to buy a PS3. And I actually know for a fact there are people who, at that time, seeing the demo of this game at E3,
putting words in Sony's mouth,
ran out and bought a PS3, thinking, I got to get a PlayStation 3 if this is the kind of game that's going to be on it. And look at I can't wait to play The Last Guardian. And then we waited.
And waited.
And waited. And waited, and people just kept asking Sony, what's going on with this game? Is it still coming out? And Sony would always say, oh yes, it's still coming out. Don't worry. There's no problems. There's no massive, issue. We're just developing it. We're taking our time. This game's going to do a good job and all of that. But then the question is, like, how long are you going to wait for this game, right? And after a while, news about the game just stopped coming out. It wasn't like Sony said it was canceled. But we just never got any more information about the game. We got no new pictures, no new footage, nothing. And it was kind of almost a running joke. People, started making references to games like Daikatana or Duke Nukem 3D or Aliens Colonial Marines. All games where they kind of went into development hell for various different reasons. And then when they finally came out, they were all terrible games, even though they had insanely long development time. And everyone was worried, is The Last Guardian going to suffer from this kind?
This is the thing with The Last Guardian. Okay, car alarm. Duke Nukem Forever, when you play that game, you can kind of see the era that that game was developed, like through the years, because it kind of it feels disjointed. That's what the one things I kept hearing from that game was like, oh, you can tell, whatever. But the with this game, I don't think that's gonna be the issue because I think it's gonna have one solid like gameplay that you're gonna know what he's trying to do. I just feel that people are going to think that this game is gonna change your life. Like it's gonna like be crack cocaine or something, and I just don't think that's what's gonna be. I mean, look at like Metal Gear Solid 5, for example. That game like took like 5 years or so to make, and everyone thought it was gonna be the second coming of Jesus. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone that was disappointed felt that way, but a good majority of them were thinking like, "Oh, this is gonna be an amazing game. It's gonna be a masterpiece." And when they played it, it didn't live up to those expectations. When I played it, I had no expectations, so I wasn't really disappointed by it. I mean, I can see there was stuff that was kind of bad about it. I'm not saying it's a perfect game, but I always have to defend that game for some reason. But you know what I mean? Like with Last Guardian, I just don't think that this game is gonna be that mind blowing that people think it's gonna be. But we'll
Kind
see.
of fate as those other games because it's now been how long, right? So then I believe it was actually around 2012 when rumor has it behind the scenes that Sony closed the studio that was working on the game and all the staff went on to work on other projects. So for all intents and purposes, even though the game never officially got canceled, everyone kind of wrote it off. And then all of a sudden, two E3s ago, we got word from Sony the game was still in development and was actually going to come out, and everyone's like, what the hell? Like, this is completely blindsiding us because we expected this to be a game that was going to really push the technology and almost sell PlayStation 3s. That's how it was pushed.
Where are these articles? Because like, I mean, I can kind of, maybe I can link. Hold on, let's see. We're gonna do a live research. Team Ico retire. Let's see. There's the guy that said that Team Ico CEO retire. Oh my god. Oh my god. Retiring. Producer. Aha! Is it this guy? Producer announced on Twitter on Monday that he has retired from Sony back in the 90s. It's still in production. Whomever director of the follow-up to the less than 3 years ago, it was officially announced. So, I guess weird. I could have sworn he said he was gonna whatever, but I don't remember that ever hearing that. Oh, they're closing down and they don't exist anymore or something. I think they still exist.
Years and years ago, and now all of a sudden it's coming out of nowhere saying, oh, by the way, it's still coming out, and it led everyone to scratch their heads. Now, of course, more info came out over the past couple of years. It's now going to be a PlayStation 4 game as opposed to PS3, and apparently a lot of the gameplay elements from the original game have been retained for this one, although this, for all intents and purposes, supposedly is a new game. It's not the original game that was being designed about 10 years ago. Whew. So it's been through the ringer.
I think it's gonna be the same game. It's just gonna they might update the controls more, and I think the reason why it took so long is probably the idea they had with the bird thing. Probably made it harder to program because either the AI might have been bad to the point where it might have hindered gameplay or something. So they probably are at the so probably now the whole co-op thing with the bird is probably changed drastically to make it more suitable to play. That's what I'm assuming. I'm willing to bet that's what happened.
Okay, and then this E3, they finally announced the release date for the darn thing, saying that it was going to be October 25th. Now, I got to ask you a question. I just want you, hypothetical, put yourself into the
Okay.
shoes of game developers, all right? You're working on a game that has been developed for almost a decade, okay? You know that there's hot anticipation for this game because it was a game that was supposed to sell a console that's obsolete at this point. You know that people are going to eagerly anticipating seeing this game, and you know that you need to deliver something quality. Because if you have a game that's 10 years in development and it's a piece of crap, you're going to look terrible, right?
Yeah.
Not only the dev
Okay.
team on this game, but also Sony will look terrible if that's what ends up happening, because Sony was the one who kept trying to stringing us along over the years saying it wasn't canceled, it's still going to come out,
Okay.
right?
All right.
So if you're going to do this, you're focusing in, you have to make a great game. You know you're under pressure. Why wouldn't you give a release date that 100% guarantees your game will release on that date? You know what I mean? It wasn't like, I made a joke on Twitter.
What a... When you develop a game, if in that situation, you give out a release date when you think it's gonna launch on that day. You're like, well, because probably when they announced that release date, they were like, oh, it's coming together very well, and it's like, yeah, it's coming out October 25th, right on target, and then, so they announced it at that event because they were probably 100% assured that it was gonna reach that time. So then, probably when they were working on it, they were like, okay, we can do this, and then they're like, okay, we might need to delay it. Well, that sucks, but it's like, well, we have to delay it, otherwise we're gonna be giving them a shit product. So, yeah, it's better to delay the game than to give us a shit product. So, you're like saying, well, it's so fucking dumb. Like, he acts like a child with delays. Like, I used to act like this when I heard delays when I was like 12, where I was like very upset and I was like, ah. But now it's like, who fucking cares now at this point? It's like, you know what? They should just take their time. If anything, a lot of games would probably have been better if they delayed it. Watch Dogs probably would have been a better game if they delayed it. Assassin's Creed Unity would have been a better game if they delayed it, etc., etc. These games would have been better if they delayed them. I'm glad they delayed it. I think, it's a sign that they actually give a shit about the game that they're making.
Twitter this morning. I said, well, it's a good thing that, The Last Guardian finally got delayed again until December, because Lord knows that it hasn't had enough development time yet and definitely needs a little bit more time in the cooker, right?
But again, it was developed on a completely different console before. And then they had to restructure it to on another console. I'm no, engineer, but I can assume, take a wild guess, that is probably what, caused them to develop this game for so long, is because they had to switch the code from one console to the next, and, something that might have worked on the PlayStation 3 might not work on the PlayStation 4. It's not like they are porting the game and remastering it they've been doing with BioShock and all that. It's not the same, because this game, it wasn't finished when they made it on the PS3, so there was no remastering going on. It was an ongoing development, so they had to take all of their existing code, move it over, make the game look like a PS4 game to the best that it can, and a lot of bugs can happen. So, they should take that as much as they need, because they have to switch coding. There was an article somewhere where GameSpot asked Kojima, what about MGS4? Are you gonna port it over to the Xbox One and PS4? Are you gonna do that? He's like, no, because the game was built on the cell processor itself. The engine was built around that, and if I were to move it to the next console, it would have to be remade. Now, you might not believe that, or you might not want to accept that, but that's what he said. And I would be more willing to believe that than, someone who didn't work on the game,
I mean, that's the running joke, is the game has had 10 fucking years, and they didn't know that it wasn't going to be ready, that you had to leave them more time, alright? And then there's the issue that they're only really delaying the release of the game by about a month, a tiny bit over a month and a week. So, okay, 40 days, let's say, estimated. What can you realistically do to improve a game or fix it in 40 days? And it was funny, because this blog post from
But
Sony...
you don't know why it got delayed. You don't know how bad the bugs were that made it go that delayed. Maybe it wasn't that big of a bug, but they wanted to make sure that they got those bugs out. I mean, it might not have been a major overhaul. It's not like when a company delays the game, it's like, oh, the game is gonna be rebuilt or something. It's just they just want more fine tuning, and they probably think that if they have these little few days, they could just fine tune it just right, and then to print this to copy the DVDs and send it out. Or there was something wrong when maybe when the the company turns it for it to go gold. Maybe when they went to print out the discs and all that, something went wrong and they had to fix that. Or anything could have been the reason why it's this exact. We don't know. We just know it got delayed. This is really what irks me when people complain about these delays. I've sat through worse delays. Metal Gear Solid 4 got delayed 3 times. It was supposed to come out in 2000. Let's see, it got announced in 2006, so it was supposed to come out in 2007. Then it got delayed till late 2007. Then early 2008. There you go. It was something like that. I know it got delayed a few times, and we got the game that we got. So
Sony's, CEO this morning was very ambiguous. Oh, it's to ensure that it's the best, polished experience for the gamers. And it's like, you had 10 years, bro. 10 years to get this game working. And this is like, there's no excuse at this point for an additional delay. What that tells me is...
Yeah, they should just release the game as is. I mean, like, why give them the extra days that they might need to polish it? No, you had 10 years, let's release it. If it's crap, hey man, it's crap. Fuck you, Phil, come on.
That the people who are working on the game sadly are inept. Because if they knew what they were doing, after 10 fucking years, they could say, okay, I know the game will finally be ready on this day. Not, oh...
They made 2 games. Well, this is their 3rd game that they're making. How many games has Phil made? Does he know what goes into developing games? He's fucking inept. He is inept to not understand game development and on the variables that might entail with development. He doesn't know. He's just saying, well, they had 10 years. Like, he's just looking at like the years that they had. Now, granted, the game has a chance of being a shitty game. Every game under the sun has that opportunity to either be a great game or a bad game. It's not like, I'm saying, this game is going to be great, but, oh, boo-hoo, they delayed the game by a month. How long did you wait for a fucking release date, people? How long did you wait? How long are you going to be waiting now? Oh, a month. Uh-oh. A month is too long, but waiting like 5 years, like 7 years or 8 years, 9 years, or whatever for a release date, that's okay. But 1 month? Whoa, man, that's too much. Okay.
I know, and then all of a sudden they're finding all these problems and the game isn't performing well, and that's what the question has to be. What would create a 40-day release window?
But it might not have been that big of an issue. They just they might have seen these bugs, was like, well, it doesn't affect the gameplay, but we shouldn't really release it with these bugs. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe it's like it's playable, but it's like, oh, there's just these bugs here that we could iron out. Let's iron them out.
Delay for a game like the last...
I can't wait for him to play Recore and see what he says about that. Just imagine about that for a moment.
Guardian after all these years of delay. What could it be? Could it just be that it really is running at a lower frame rate than they like and they want to tweak it so at least it runs at a solid frame rate on the PS4? Is it that maybe they were ready to go gold, per se, put it on discs, and then all of a sudden they found this game-crippling bug that, oh my god, this could completely destroy the game and we have to fix this right now? I don't know what it could be. This is, it really harkens to the recent delay of Final Fantasy 15, where the game's been in development for a bajillion years, and all of a sudden, here we are, a month and a half to game time, and they delayed it several months. And it's like, how do you catch this shit last minute? It doesn't even make sense. It just blows my mind. Like,
do you understand game testing? Because game testing is like, there's a reason why people say that game testing is like the shittiest job in the video game industry, because like you're just playing the game over and over and over and over, trying to find all kinds of exploits and shit. So, okay.
How? Woo! 10 years and it's not enough for us to know that this game's not ready yet. Like, then don't promise a release date. I think we were all actually happy.
Remember Petron 7, Project 7? Remember that? The stars aligned!
Just to know that The Last Guardian was going to be coming out and we didn't need to have a promised release date for October. Why don't you say, okay, it's coming out holiday 2016, and then we...
Do you know how much pressure they got to give a release date? Do you know how much pressure they got built up? They probably had to give release dates so people would stop complaining. But at the same time, they probably were sure it was coming out in October. Then they're like, okay, now we need to delay it. Like, who cares if they delayed it? And also, like, you listed that, like, in October, there was, like, 5 games coming out in that week. And then in December, 2 games. 2 games are coming out. Now it's gonna be 3. Oh god, oh no. Oh man, oh god, oh no.
Okay, whatever, and then when you're ready, you can announce the solid release date.
Ah, sip. Take a sip.
Now, here's the other thing. And this remains to be seen, but it needs to be discussed. You're delaying the game from late October to early December. Alright? Now, I'm going to give you some perspective here.
Alright.
In late October, I've already described the games around its release in America, and, you know, the West, I'd say the Western world outside of Japan. You've got, you know, Battlefield 1, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Titanfall 2. Now, those games aren't necessarily exact games that are going to compete with that audience, but they are still high-profile games. For PC users, you got Civ 6. That's a big PC game that's going to be coming out.
Oh, yeah.
So you would have had some competition in late October. But would any of those games, like, directly have said, I have to buy this game over The Last Guardian?
Yeah.
No, because none of those games are really like platformers. None of those games have anything to kind of do with this style of game. All right.
So what does The Last Guardian have to do with Dead Rising and South Park? Neither of those are platformers. What? Okay, Phil.
Now you're delaying this game until early December. And I hate to say it, but Final Fantasy 15 is going to have that big kind of,
Platformer?
you know,
What?
Japanese culture-centric style audience. People who are into that style of game are going to be buying Final Fantasy 15. God,
like, that is like a hint of racism right there. Final Fantasy is a Japanese culture game. Japanese people are gonna go buy it. So, Last Guardian is fucked. What? Okay.
I would almost think The Last Guardian might have a lot of that similar customer base. When you compare that with the other games coming out on December 6th, South Park The Fractured But Whole, and that's probably more for Western audiences. I think more people who are going to buy Final Fantasy 15 and The Last Guardian are going to buy those games over South Park regardless. And Dead Rising 4, I'd say, is a completely different style of game, and I really don't think that would cut into its market. But what you really have to factor in now is everyone's dollar, because this is stacking up to be one of the business.
Last Guardian has to battle against 2 other games, while before it was battling, like, 5 games. Oh my god, guys. And it's the holiday season, the time where a lot of people spent money. Yeah, okay. You find me, a parent, that's not gonna buy The Last Guardian for their son, daughter, or whatever.
Busiest hardcore gaming seasons in recent memory. I'm just gonna give you
Oh my god, guys. This video, we might as well renamed it the Hardcore Gaming Season Dilemma, because he keeps having these problems every year. He keeps saying, this is the most busiest hardcore gaming season ever to memory. Oh my god, we have Metal Gear Solid 5, we have Mad Max, we have this, we have that, we have this, and this. And it's the same song and dance. How many times will we have to hear this?
Summary of the games that I'm personally planning on checking out, and a few that I'm skipping, alright? Just in the month of October, you've got Mafia 3, Gears of War 4, WWE 2K17, the PlayStation VR is launching, you've got games like I already mentioned, Battlefield, Civ, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and Titanfall 2. In early November, you've got Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, Dishonored 2, Watch Dogs 2, Pokemon Sun and Moon, and I apologize because there's one other game that's written on my calendar and I can't see it from here, okay? Oh, I remember! It's the launch of the NES Classic, how they're going to be launching that retro console that you can play NES games in high definition on your television. That's coming out around that same time. And Final Fantasy 15.
Oh,
with all
phone call
those games
hype.
competing.
Phone call hype. Hello, everyone! Welcome to part 2. The phone call is over. I don't remember what I said, but I said phone call hype, so... it was actually a person! It wasn't a telemarketer, so there you go.
Waiting for your dollar, right? It actually makes sense for you to release your game earlier, because then it's out there.
Yeah, it makes sense to release your game earlier, buggy and all that shit, so if your game is shit, it's gonna fucking... crash. Yeah, that's what people want, right? They want to download those patches for the game that they paid $60 for. Yeah.
Oh, you're tempted. I'm so tempted to buy that game. You know, it's already out. The other games are coming out, but I have to wait for them. I could just spend my money now and get a great game. You might buy the game.
Why not just pre-order it? If you have the money to buy for that game, why not just pre-order it?
Game first, because it's out first, okay? Delaying this game until December may hugely affect its sales in various markets. On the flip side, let me rephrase that. There may have been people who were interested in this game over the years and wrote it off completely when they heard that it was kind of getting canceled and got excited again, okay, when they heard it was coming out again, but now...
No, I can guarantee those people have left the train. They left the wagon. They don't care. Like, I was interested when it was announced for PS3, and then it went away, and then when it got announced again, I was like, I don't give a shit. I mean, like... this long's probably gonna be like a Duke Nukem Forever, or it's gonna just be an okay game. Like, at this point, it's not even like, I need this game. Like, it's not even that anymore. I don't care.
Now you're putting it amidst the end of the busiest gaming season, and for a lot of people, this may just end up being the game they buy after Christmas. Or this may end up being the game that maybe they buy in January, February, because there's too much else going on.
But like, I don't think Team Ico cares about the sales. I don't think Sony cares about the sales for that game either. It's not like that they're aiming to do a sequel to The Last Guardian 2. They don't care. Not every company cares about sales. The only time that companies care about sales is if it's like a publisher. I mean, sales doesn't reflect anything. And honestly, even looking at Sony's track record, they don't really seem that invested in sales that much. I mean, if they did, they would probably have not made 4 Killzone games. Just saying.
Even further to the point of the game being delayed, this will cause people to lose confidence. Because let's face it, how much confidence can you have in a game that was supposed to come out 6 years ago, 6+ years ago, on a previous console, now is going to a new console, gets delayed last minute? I mean, obviously there's something wrong here.
Last minute?
So consumer...
Last minute would be like the night before the game comes out, they say, oh, we're delaying the game. That's last minute.
Confidence in The Last Guardian is going to dip because people are going to say, now I don't even know to trust if I should spend my money. Why should I spend $60 on The Last Guardian when we've got all these other games coming out that weren't delayed, that probably are going to be AAA heavy hitter games?
What other games are coming out besides South Park and Dead Rising 4? Dead Rising 4 is an Xbox One exclusive, so PlayStation 4 owners like myself don't have to worry about that. But, you know, yeah, there's South Park The Fractured Butthole, but chances are I probably already pre-ordered that. Same with... It doesn't make sense.
Games that are going to be bang for your buck, or I got to take the chance with The Last Guardian that they didn't fuck the game up, and that's why they had to delay it another 40 days at the last minute, right? And so it's going to create this kind of uncertainty amongst consumers, honestly, having a delay like this at the last minute. Same thing with Final Fantasy 15, where you had all this stuff planned for its launch, a movie, the online series tie-ins and all this stuff, and then it gets delayed a month and a half, and it's like, now the movie's out, no one cares. Like, anyone who's a fan of Final Fantasy would have seen the movie already, but it's not going to get any kind of, like, extra hype or whatever on the game because the game's not coming out for a long time and people are frustrated about it. So it's kind of the same thing with The Last Guardian here. It's like, yeah, hype, yes, finally, The Last Guardian.
Like, I've honestly seen people moan about Final Fantasy 15, and it's like, get fucking over it, guys. I'm sorry that your game got delayed, but, I mean, do you want an unfinished game? Do you want a patch to download? I don't know. Whatever.
Oh, nope. Well, screw it. Fuck it. I'm not waiting anymore. I don't trust these people because obviously they don't know what they're doing. I'm gonna go buy.
But remember when when you shouldn't buy into hype? Remember when he said that?
Buy this game because it comes out for. I would almost guarantee some people maybe we're torn between similar style, Japanese-centric style games like Final Fantasy or Persona 5. I know a lot of people will probably be importing Persona 5, even though it's fully in Japanese. They're that into the game series they're going to want.
they're gonna import the game if it's all in Japanese because they want to play it? No, they're probably gonna wait for the American release, unless the Japanese version has English in it, like Dead or Alive Extreme 3, whatever that game was. People imported that because it had English in it. If it was just Japanese, no one would be importing it.
So you got Final Fantasy 15, you got Persona 5, you got The Last Guardian, you got a few, I know there's a few other Japanese games that I didn't mention. A few people have been telling me about them near the end of the year. I'm not too interested in them, obviously. But now you're like, well, Final Fantasy comes out first. Oh well, I'm getting it, you know? And I don't know.
Yeah, it's
to
all like
me,
you guys could buy
and again,
the game
I'm not a
off
game
right
developer.
now.
All right, I'm certainly not a game developer whatsoever. I cannot attest to the problems that these guys have behind the scenes. You know, it could
But
be
you
a
just
tech
call
issue,
them
it could be
inept.
who knows what kind of
You just call them inept, and now you're like, well, I'm not a game developer, so I don't know. But you just call them inept.
issue this could be that just rears its ugly head at the last fucking moment. But I can tell you this: in any job whatsoever, if I had a task to deliver something, all right, around a set time frame, and I failed, and I failed, and I failed, and I failed, and my team was fucking dissolved, and then somehow more people were brought back together to continue the project, and you're finally going to have this project come to fruition, and you know there's people who stuck with this for 10 years for this game to come out, I would be goddamn sure that when I gave you a date when it was coming out, that by hook or by crook, the game was fucking coming out on that date. And they didn't do that. They fucked it up again. Like, wow. I mean, at this point, I'm almost laughing to myself. Because I'm like, is this game going to be one of those games, I hate to say it, you know, a No Man's Sky, a game that on the premise of the game looked gorgeous, right? But we haven't really seen too much gameplay of it. And it sounds great on the surface as a great working formula, but are we going to finally play this game?
But here's the difference between No Man's Sky and Last Guardian. One is developed by a team that you've played their other games in their repertoire. One is just some guy made an indie game that was funded by Sony. There's the difference.
Early December, and the game sucks. It's just like, it's too short, or the game mechanics are just too easy, or too difficult, or just stupid. And is it going to be one of those games that got so much hype over the years that we all got pumped up for it, and then we run out and buy it, and it ends up sucking? You know? Sucking? I mean, at this point, I'm so fascinated I have to get it. I don't even care. I have to get it. Because whether the game is great or the game sucks shit, I have to fucking get it, because I'm dying. I've been waiting 10 years. I remember at that E3, I was watching the E3, and I was like, what the fuck? You know?
He just said that people would be losing interest since they announced the delay. Now it's like, well, I have to get it because it got delayed. I gotta see what it is. So, what?
Seriously, like, 10 years of waiting for a game. So, my ultimate thoughts on The Last Guardian being delayed 40 days. Okay, if it really means, if it really means that it's going to put final polish on the game, and the game's going to be amazing because of this final delay, and it's going to end up being the masterpiece that they promised us for years and years and years, and we're just going to ignore the fact that it took 10 years for the game to come out, and that every other game that had long development like that, a la Duke Nukem, or Daikatana, or Aliens Colonial Marines, are all pieces of shit. We're going to ignore that, okay? And we're just going to say, oh, the game's going to be great, you know, fine. Then delay it to 40 days, delay it 60 days, delay it another fucking 10 years for all I care, as long as the final product is good. But when I hear a game like this in this long of a development gets that last minute delay, that makes me worry. And I almost am getting that vibe that the game is going to be one of those overhyped games that massively disappoint us, a la No Man's Sky.
Overhyped? Dude, I got that when like, the first trailer was released. Because it's like, it's a hyped game. But like, it's a last minute delay. Like, okay.
Ago, and that would be a shame because after so much anticipation, right? I don't know. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments of this video. Are you still gonna buy it? Do you think that this delay will hurt the sales of the game and or the confidence in the game because it is another last minute delay just like Final Fantasy 15
no, I don't think it's gonna hurt anything.
What do you think about a game 10 years in development in particular that's finally coming out? I mean, is there even a chance that this game could be good? 10 years. You know what I mean?
It has a chance.
I just want to hear your comments. So please leave a comment on the video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next.
I mean, again, like any game has a chance of being a good game or a bad game. Any game that's announced has that opportunity. So that's it for this video. I'll be most likely doing a Dead Rising stream. So um, I'll put the link in the description below once this is uploaded. But I don't know how long that's gonna be now because I have to edit these two parts together. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. See you guys when I see ya.